What if emotions were just, an aspect of your life that you could observe, and you wouldn't be living through your emotions, but emotions would be just one aspect amongst a lot of other aspects in your life? And it's something I'm experimenting right now these days, and I find it very, very valuable actually. The thing is, most of the time, the problem is, we are more kind of reacting to what happens around us, what happens in our mind, first of all, and all that is based on emotions. And if we dig a little bit deeper, emotions are just a reaction based on memories and on perceptions, but the perceptions are based on what we know, and what we know is based on past. So basically, we react to things according to past experiences. It's maybe a very shortcut I make, but it's very, very similar to that. Most of the time, that's the general pattern of what happens. So when we live through emotions, we live through past experiences, basically. Okay, so that's one thing, but the problem is that we don't have a chance to really make new experience through that. So we have to be able to be outside of these emotions, and to, if we want to create new things, to really have power again, and yeah, to basically to make a choice. So for that, we must be able to be aware of that. That is, be aware of the emotions that are created right now, depending on the circumstances, what happens in our mind. Okay, there are a set of emotions. Those emotions tend to drive us, right, left, up, down, and it's always constantly moving. We don't take a real direction, and we just go nowhere, basically. So that's why I think it's really important to be aware of that, to integrate those data uh, to our reflection, something like that, to our awareness, I would say. And so emotions are part of the data we have in our life. But if we can just be, observer, as certain people would say, uh, to observe the emotions, to observe like we can observe everything that we perceive in our life. So emotions are basically things that happen in our body that we can feel. So that makes them very real, and we tend to, as I already said, we tend to mistake our emotions, our feelings, for who we are. Now, if we can really make the difference and say, okay, there's my emotions, there are a lot of other data around me, in my mind, my body, all that are just um, data, and now there is me, basically. There is me that is beyond all that, and I can make a choice from all those data. Basically, I realized, if I came to this experimentation, it's because I realized that I'm driven a lot of time, driven only by my emotions. I'm just reacting, and it's always the same, and it's not rational at all. It's not the choice I make, I'm reacting. If I'm irritated, I'm going to react a certain way. That's just based on feeling, on an emotion. And so I don't choose anything at all. I cannot, choose to be above that, to make another choice, unless I choose that. Emotions are just feelings. Maybe, sometimes you have, bad emotions, bad feelings, and this time it's very good to say, okay, I can also, choose something else, something that is obviously beyond emotions. Because, as I said, in this state, you're just going to observe those emotions as just part of any kind of perceptions you have. And then you're above that, and you can then, imagine or take the place of something much larger than emotions. Emotions would be just a little dot in your perception, and that makes things really completely different. And then you realize how much you can go above that, and everything changed. It's like opening a door, which is, you were just living in a very tiny world, and suddenly you open the door, and the world becomes much larger, because emotions basically are just a very tiny part of what we experience. And most of the time, I think we are just like drawn into our emotions. So that's what I'm experimenting. I really think that's very valuable because, as I said, it's just open a new door. So what I can suggest if you want to try that is to, especially when you have, emotions, strong emotions, obviously, especially when those are negative emotions. If those are good emotions, you can, just enjoy them. If those are negative emotions, just realize those are emotions. And even though you're experiencing good emotions, it's always good, I think, to realize those are emotions and they're bound to change very quickly, very suddenly. You don't have control over that. They're going to change. And if you can realize that, you can say, okay, I enjoy this emotion. I also know that it's just an emotion and it's just like, it's coming and it's leaving very quickly. So I'm just aware of that. If you're aware of that, you can just take control whenever you want. So when you have bad emotions, instead of reacting to them and mistaking yourself for your emotions, just realize that you also have another choice. I know that's difficult to make at this point, but you can really say, okay, I know it. Even if I feel, like overwhelmed by these emotions, I can also just remember that I also have another choice. Just remembering this thought at least helps me a lot to say, hey, I know it feels like overwhelming, but I know that I do have another choice. And I'm going to focus on this choice. And basically, it's something that I was more or less doing, not exactly the same way, but almost when I was doing competition in judo. You always have those emotions, and you learn very quickly to just say, okay, I know there are emotions. That's just part of the game, but I know that my role is to choose what I want and not to react to emotions, because else, if each time you have emotions of difficulties, you just give in. You're not able to do anything. So you learn to make the difference and say, there are emotions, now I have a choice and I'm going to make another choice. That's where you start to really control something. So yeah, I really think that's a very valuable experience. Don't hesitate, try that, and let me know what you think of that, how it happens for you. I know it's difficult when you are kind of overwhelmed by a negative emotion, to just stop and remembering, I know I have another choice. Now I'm going to see what happens if I just don't react to the emotion and I let those emotions. I know that there are good reasons for having these emotions. Now I want to step, outside of that and have much wider vision of my ability. So just very very beginning to changing things, and I'll keep you posted on what next for me through this experience. Okay, and thank you. I talk to you soon.